In last week's video, we made this celebration loaf. Now it's time to make the mashed potatoes and gravy to go with it. If you saw last week's video, you know that we reserved a third of the sautéed veggies to go into the gravy. If you just want to make this gravy standalone without making the celebration loaf to go with it, I have the instructions in the description box below, and I also have a link to the previous video in the description box, so you can see that too. The thing that makes this gravy really stand out are chanterelle mushrooms, dried chanterelle mushrooms. If you can't find them and can only find fresh, that's okay too. If you can't find chanterelles, any kind of flavorful mushroom will do. And it's a 1/4 cup of dried or a 1/2 cup of fresh. And so in this case, I'm using a 1/4 cup of dried chanterelles, and I have them soaked in a cup of warm water for 10 minutes. Put the sautéed veggies into a blender bowl. Along with a 1.5 cups of water. And drain the mushrooms. And add them. So after you've blended everything to a smooth puree, put it back in the pan and bring it to a simmer. Medium heat, stirring fairly constantly so that it doesn't stick. And it's already fairly thick. If you want to add salt, now's the time to add it. Once it comes to a boil, you need to cook it for about 2 minutes. Absolutely must do that because the chanterelles need to be cooked. It's because they have a mild toxin in them that cooking neutralizes. So now, after it's been boiling for about 2 minutes, everything's cooked. The last thing you want to do is take a tablespoon of arrowroot powder and dissolve it with a 1/4 cup of cold water. You can use flour too if you don't have arrowroot. I just happen to think it tastes better. In fact, arrowroot has no taste. And you can use cornstarch too, but that gets kind of glossy, and I don't like glossy gravy. Make sure that it's cold water. If you use warm water, it'll clump up. We'll dissolve it and then pour it in to the gravy and just let it stir it well, and it will start to thicken immediately. And just bring it back to a boil. And put it into your container. Oops. Now let's move on to the mashed potatoes. I've already cooked and drained the mashed potatoes. This is about 1.25 pounds of potatoes cut into pieces. I've left the skins on. I like the skins in my mashed potatoes because I like the potato skins. I think it's probably the best part of the potato. And there's a little bit of water left in the bottom of the pan just because it does need a little bit more moisture. I have tried so many things to get that light, fluffy potatoes, and just without butter and milk, it's really hard to do. But I finally hit on the solution. And yes, she puts what in her mashed potatoes? And the ingredient is tofu. Believe it or not, I put tofu in my mashed potatoes. So what I would like in the comment section below, as I'm telling you this, I'd like you to write either, hey, great, love it, or, well, I'm skeptical, but I'll give it a try, or, no thanks. I'd just like to know what your initial reaction was. So, one of the things that I do, this recipe has half a block of tofu. I buy tofu in these small containers, which is, this is roughly, well, it is the equivalent of a whole block, but it's in a smaller package. And I don't get it because it's sprouted. You can get this at either Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. I just get it because it's packaged smaller. When you open a package, if you're not going to use the whole thing in just a few days, it goes bad. And this way you have less tofu going bad if you don't use the whole thing. So, in my blender, I am going to put a block of tofu, half block of tofu. And it doesn't have to be, this doesn't have to be drained. Well, it's drained, but you don't have to press the water out. And it's not coming out. There we go. Okay, and a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast and 1/3 cup of cashews. The other thing you want to add is a 1/4 cup of soy milk. Just want to have enough to get the blender going. So, put the lid on. If you don't have a high-powered blender like a Vitamix, you're going to need to soak your cashews for about 2 hours in some warm water. If you have a Vitamix, it'll pulverize just about everything. So, this is going to be noisy, so I'm going to turn the sound off. But essentially, you got your tamper and just get a smooth, creamy puree. So look at how luscious and creamy this is. Smooth and lovely. So I have my potatoes with just a little bit of water, the cooking water reserved, and I'm just going to start getting these going. And then turn on the mixer. Now that I've got things started, I'm going to add my tofu mixture. And here we have it, the basis of a meal fit for a celebration. Have a loaf and creamy, rich mashed potatoes and a flavorful mushroom gravy. If you think you'll try this meal, click on the thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe. And next week we'll have another adventure in healthy plant-based cooking. Bon appetit.